This is stranger to stranger transmission. So the individuals concerned, and it's not one or two, we now have at least 4 instances in this cluster of 54 where people who are unknown to each other before, during and after have clearly transmitted to each other. Sorry, yeah.
The same type of transmission as we saw last year, or is this a
No, it's. I mean, clearly, we're in a position now where, with the sheer volume of testing and the sheer amount of contact tracing and focus we have on these cases, we can see a lot more than, frankly, we could see 12 months ago. So we're starting to unpick these at a much more granular detail. Absolutely, will this have happened last year? I'm sure it would have done. What we're seeing with the Indian variant here is we can now really see that it's happening relatively often. With a sheer number of those kind of very fleeting contacts. Most of our traditional approach to this that we've used across the world has been to really focus on those household contacts, those workplace contacts. Do you remember the old 2-hour rule we used to have way back when? So we used to be far more focused on where there was a fair intensity of contact. What we're seeing now clearly is people who are, they're brushing past each other in a small shop. They're going around a display home. They're looking at phones in a Telstra shop. This is relatively speaking, relatively fleeting contact. They don't know each other's names. And that's very different from where we've been before.
Is this because of a high viral load?
Well, no, we believe it's a combination of that, Richard. I mean, I think there's obviously, I'm not the clinician here, but there's we think it's primarily a feature of the Indian variant, which is that it is just that much more contagious. Not in every single person. So we're seeing examples where people are not transmitting at all, as is the case with our original gentleman from Wollert, who we think has only transmitted to one person, but we've got people in this outbreak who have clearly transmitted to multiple numbers of people.
And you talked about 75% of primary contacts
Yeah.
come back negative. The remaining 25% are they positive, or you still?
No, they're coming through. So as the outbreak, as we see these exposure sites, as we see these primary close contacts coming in, 4,800 primary close contacts today. That's another 600 from where we were looking at about 24 hours or so ago. So of course there's a bow wave there. We're encouraging them all to go and get tested. That takes its 20-hour cycle or so. Those test results come in and we start to see them. So we're always going to be a little step behind as we identify new primary close contact. There'll always be a 24-hour lag until we get the results into the system.
These high-risk sites you just read out before.
Yeah.
Are there specific dates for that, or was this all pre-lockdown? I mean, what sort
No. So there are over 300 exposure sites now on our website, and again, I'd encourage people to please use the website for this. What we've identified here is a number of retail strips, essentially precincts where we know some of our cases have been. There are exposure sites on all of these streets, but they've been in these general streets. And I'm using it as a way to get people's attention that says we've seen these positive cases. It is entirely possible that we've seen this kind of fleeting contact in any of these locations, possibly others. So please use the exposure site list as the guide. But this is I want to broaden our appeal.
Do you have concern about these particular sites since we've been in lockdown, or is this all pre-last Thursday?
No, this is. I mean, this as the picture continues to build and emerge. So we started off. You start off with your individual cases. You start to see how it's moving. At the beginning of this particular outbreak, focusing around the city of Whittlesea, focusing around a lot of household contacts. We started picking up some other exposure sites. We talk about those, and we've seen this outbreak continue to morph, as all outbreaks do. What we're now doing is we're keen to start to drain the swamp that says, well, what else is out there? Is there anybody else out there who we haven't caught yet? Is there anybody out there who isn't being caught up by the exposure sites? Hence, we start to focus a little bit on these retail strips.
Well, I guess the question is, how long do you need to do that, and can lockdown end on Thursday?
So look, my job is to keep driving hard until I've got everybody who's positive under control, locked down, isolating safely. Obviously, conversations around what does that mean for the response are those for the Chief Health Officer.
Are you seeing any more positives outside of the City of Greater Melbourne, or?
No, so at this point in time, we have no new exposure sites outside of Greater Melbourne, and we have no positive cases in regional Victoria. That is, of course, a good thing. I think I just heard the comment, am I confident? Well, look, we have a case today that we didn't know about yesterday. That wasn't a primary close contact. I don't like mystery cases because it's a real cause for concern that it's someone who's not on our network, who we therefore need to find out and need to contact trace from scratch. We need to find their exposure sites. And this is still a very active and dynamic situation. We've seen this thing morph 3 or 4 times already in the space of the last 8 days. The teams are working exceptionally hard. We're managing, just under 5,000 primary close contacts. over 300 exposure sites. We have a lot more work to do, and we will do that, and we'll continue to do that.
Just on the mystery cases, how many do we currently have active in Victoria?
So we have 54 cases active in Victoria. They're not mysteries anymore because we have them.
There's no mystery cases
No,
left.
but the point I'd make is that there's no mystery cases. So every case we have has been linked.
Yep.
Has been linked to either City of Whittlesea or Port Melbourne or Arcare. They're all part of our original Indian variant coming out of SA hotel quarantine. So they're all connected and linked. My concern around the case, one of the cases we've identified in the last 24 hours, is they were not known to us beforehand. And that means that, he's done the right thing. He's come forward to get tested because he was feeling a bit crook. But we've connected him into the outbreak. But we now have to go back 3, 4, 5 days and say, what else has he been doing? And are there any other risks and exposures? That work's obviously been going on for the last, 12 hours, and that will continue.
So that
Yeah, Blake.
connection to Port Melbourne
Yeah.
just lives near the Stratton Finance?
Yeah, he lives around the corner from Stratton Finance. He's got exposure in a number of the coffee shops and units around there, also frequented by Stratton Finance employees. There's some exact matches in terms of that contact. And again, it goes back to that theme around peripheral contact. What we're seeing here is an individual who has had relatively infrequent, relatively fleeting contact with, we think, a couple of people over 2 days. That appears to have been enough to get this infection across.
How many cases don't have sources? We heard yesterday that first aged care worker, we didn't know the source for that one. Is that still the case?
So we have 2 or 3 lines of inquiry at the moment between the 4 individuals around our care and the City of Whittlesea Port Melbourne cluster. We haven't defined what was the actual vector that they came across. There's a number of different scenarios. We're still working on that. What we're very, very clear about today is genomically, they're all connected.